Hey, today we're gonna do a upper body, lower body workout using just bands and a mat. If you've got a furry friend who's gonna interrupt your workout, then yours might look a little bit more like mine. Feel free to take breaks as needed or to push yourself a little bit harder. I'll be offering suggestions throughout all the different exercises. Let's go. First, we're gonna warm up. I'm gonna start my timer here so we're all on time together. Just coming into a nice lunge position, we're just gonna do some rock backs. If your range looks different than mine, then do a range that looks different than mine. You might feel some spots that feel good to stretch. You can hold them, but we're really trying to get everything moving, warmed up at the same time. You should start to feel the muscles relax into some of these exercises and positions. I'm gonna switch sides, same thing. None of this is in any form meant to feel intense. This is just our warm-up, getting everything going. In this exercise, we've got the ankle moving, the knee moving, the hip moving, not really as focused on the upper body. And then we're gonna repeat the same thing, but on a diagonal. So I've got my pelvis open. You can use your hands for support, because we're not really trying to get a big load on this movement and push ourselves back and forth. Just trying to open the hips, the knee, the ankle. Your range might look a little bit smaller. As it starts to open up, we can take our hands off the ground and just start to get a little bit of that muscle work coming out of those ranges. Luna's taking up some of my mat, even though she's got her own. I always notice that one side feels a little looser to me. The right always kind of seems to feel a little bit more accessible, but I'll make sure to match it with a little bit of hands on the mat and then opening up into more of that diagonal range. Trying not to allow our knee to cave in towards the center and really try to get as much of an opening in the hips as possible. I might sit here for a second and let some of those spots allow me some extra space. We might add on one kind of child's pose, rock back here. You can open your knees up. You can go a little bit more narrow, whatever feels good, whatever needs a little bit of space. Then to get our arms moving, we're gonna have our band going. You can do this from any position, but get a little bit of stretch out on a band. This could also be a towel that you would be holding, a belt, any real sort of solid, relatively solid band here. Just trying to rainbow up and over top of your head. The narrower your hands are together, the tighter that's gonna be on your shoulders. So find an easy spot. Allow yourself the space. You shouldn't be clicking and clunking, trying to wiggle around any roadblocks in your shoulders. We're just really getting them moving. We're also trying to make sure we're not taking all of this with our chest and our spine and just keeping it in the shoulders so they can really open up for us. Beautiful. Sometimes add in a nice diagonal just to get some other ranges going. This workout is not intended to meet anyone's injury needs. So if you by any chance have an injury and irritation, please be mindful of it in the way that you train your body and don't push through anything that you're not sure about. Getting into our workout, I've got 3 intensities of bands. We're gonna pick my lightest one here, and we're gonna start with some happy seals. This band's gonna go right around your wrists. I like to do things in a position that challenges my balance. So I'm here in a kneeling position, and we're just gonna add some pulsations out on the band. Try to keep that same pace, and we're gonna bring that band as high up overhead as what we can control at roughly the same pace. This is an exhausting exercise for some of those shoulder stabilizers, so you may not feel like you can get too many in. This is my 3rd, really trying to focus on keeping my elbows straight, keeping my wrists straight. The workload should feel like it's around that t-shirt line on your arm where your deltoids are. It's actually deeper than your deltoids, but we're working here a little bit closer to the actual shoulder joint. Whew. And that's gonna have me a little bit cooked. If you notice that one arm is lagging a little bit and the pace is different. Just trying to focus on what some of those engagements are and where you could be doing a bit better. On this one, we're just gonna do a nice banded pull apart. The tighter that you hold a band, or if you even double fold it, the more resistance that you'll get. Here, we're not focusing on just going as wide as we can, but really thinking about squeezing those shoulder blades together, holding for a second. If I turn myself around, you should see that engagement there. I could really kind of flap my arms open. That's not going to give me a good engagement. So really focusing on the muscle piece here. On all my sets, I don't really count. I like to do everything kind of a round or two to fatigue. So why don't you try to find the same point for yourself? Ooh, it's really getting me tired there. We're gonna go through circuits as we do this. Our next piece of our circuit is gonna be some form of a push-up. We can go narrow and hit more of our triceps. You can go wider or hands turned out and hit more of your pecs. I don't love kneeling push-ups, but in order to not use any extra equipment, we can also demonstrate those here. Another alternative to make a push-up a little bit more accessible is to raise the height of your hands. There's nothing wrong with doing a kneeling or modified push-up position. That's about 6 there for me. Feeling my triceps starting to burn. I'm gonna switch, if Luna will let me, into a little bit more of a pec load. So again, going wider. And really thinking about squeezing the elbows together. As our 4th exercise in this upper body circuit, of course, we're gonna do a banded plank. That band's going right around your wrists again. Think about dropping your hips, pushing up through your shoulders, and then we're gonna add a little alternating leg march. Really thinking about trying to keep your lower back stable and move more from your hips, your glutes, rather than just as high as you can get your leg. From the upper body, really keep those wrists pushed out and stay pushed away from the mat. And then let's repeat. Again, we can take any of these exercises for the upper body in any position. So I can do my happy seals here in a seated exercise. This is gonna get hard to coach through as my breath is getting short. I don't know how all those coaches do it. Killing it on the spin bikes and still sounding relatively relaxed. Ooh, that is tough. Within these exercises, I designed it to be challenging in a muscular sense from endurance as a standpoint, rather than from weight or resistance amount. You'll notice my bands aren't very heavy, and yet still, I'm gonna get a pretty good workout from this. That's 5 for me. Really thinking about the shoulder blades, almost like the arms start at the shoulder blades. So as we pull out, it's really this whole chain moving. I think I can pop 2 more out, squeeze. Not letting it compensate, and then feeling that nice burn all the way through and around the shoulder blades. Next exercise is gonna be back to push-ups, just to switch up our variations. Since Luna stole my mat, I'll do a set on the edge of my bench as an alternative to hitting push-ups from your knees. Really making sure you feel like you're pivoting from your feet. I don't like to see these extra arches or that people's hips sag and lift as they do their push-ups. I'll then switch, opening my grip, tilting my hands out to get a little pec. I always feel strongest in my triceps. These are really tough for me. There you go. And then we'll come back to still that lightest band from a plank position, which we can modify by getting our arms a little bit higher and then adding our march in. The wider your feet are here, the harder it's going to be to maintain your balance. So you can try bringing your toes nice and close together. Whew, starting to feel things gas out as we work through a second circuit. In order to keep this workout short and compact, we're going to do upper body as 2 circuits, which we just did, and move into the lower body circuit. Checking my notes here just to make sure I know what we're getting into. Come on, bud. There you go. We're going to start out with a reverse lunge linearly and then straight into a diagonal. So you're going to stay on the same leg, stepping back, and then hitting the diagonal range. You can add in a little bit of a runner's arm here. If you're on a mat, aim to go down the center of the mat on the first one, and then just off to the side of the mat on the diagonal. So many people are trying to get as horizontal as they can and really losing the integrity of the movement. The diagonal is going to get us a little bit more hip involvement. The linear is going to get us a little bit more quad involvement. Switching sides, you can train for seconds and have them be equal. You can have more of a focus on rep number. For me, my left knee doesn't like to go down to the floor behind me. So my slight modification here is that I relatively just keep my back leg straight. But by reaching extra far back, I still get a nice depth on my front leg. So you can consider this another option to modify to if it doesn't feel good to go down in the traditional sense. We're just looking to get a good workout, not for it to look a certain way. I'm gonna grab my either medium or heaviest band here. We're gonna throw it around the knees. People are always adding bands to workouts, but not necessarily sure what we're trying to get out of it. It's the sides, the corners. So when you push out on a band, really think about where that anchor comes from. We're gonna drop down into a mid squat, hold the pressure out on the band, and pulse through. If you're comfortable, once we start to get a little tired here, we're gonna add a jump in for 5 reps and then repeat until we get a little tired. So I'm kind of hitting that spot here, really focusing on that engagement into my band, and then really trying to keep the landing soft. Engage that band as soon as we come down. Seeing where that fatigue wants to show up. Is it equal in both legs? Is it in one area more than the other? Is it on one leg more than the other? We're gonna switch to our next exercise in a side plank, keeping our band on. And we're gonna actually push through the floor, opening up into a little clamshell here. Don't just think about lifting. That'll give you more of an oblique feeling. Really push yourself into the top of the position and then squeeze, peel, open that top leg as you come up. I think I've got one more. Again, I like working to fatigue. I don't really love just counting for numbers. That just leaves a lot left on the table. And I find it can be quite distracting from thinking about quality. In this movement, there's this little bit of forward back involved here to get more of our glutes. Our glutes have an extension function pushing us forwards and also an opening function as well as many others. But we're trying to hit both here. Both legs are working on both sides. So on your second side, you might start to feel pretty tired, but hey, that's what we're here for. Our last exercise, we're gonna aim to get a little bit of hamstring engagement, as we haven't gotten that yet. You can put your hands wherever you like. I like mine behind my head. We're gonna come up into a bridge, not the highest bridge you can create, just up and into a nice long line, feeling your glutes engaged, toes up, and then as stably as we can, as far as we can go, we're gonna try to walk out and back in. Let's see how many I can get here. There's so many ways to do bridges. This one, as we said, is really great for hamstrings. I think I might get 5 reps in. Not letting your butt touch the ground. Not letting your butt start to lift into the air. If you tend to have lower back pain, it might not feel amazing, but find the range that feels good for you. Alternatively, we could do single leg bridges here, really digging and pulling the heel in for some hamstring work. If you feel the walkout isn't feeling great, or you want to add an extra pulse onto it, I'm going to get one more on my walkout. Pulling, pulling, pulling into the ground. And then we're going to reset back to the top of the lower body circuit. So far, a little over 15 minutes in, I've got a nice sweat mark going on the floor. You don't need to have big weights to get a big workout in. Again, we're gonna take that linear lunge into a diagonal lunge. Again, whether or not that back knee bends is really a moot point, since our goal is to load the front. Try integrating your breath in with you here. Make sure you're really pushing yourself back up. If we think just down and up, you're pretty likely to use something you shouldn't. If you really think about pushing, that connecting leg into the floor, you're helping your body focus on where you should really be creating the movement from. Switching over to my other side. Again, this leg likes to go long in the back, but the workload on the front leg stays about the same. If you want to explore more about how do you get different muscles with small adjustments like this, there's a lower body theory video on the YouTube page going into some more depth. As you go through your rounds, things are going to start to feel tiring. There's no reason for each set to look exactly the same or each side to look exactly the same. Coming back down with our band just above the joint here. You could put it just below the joint, but this is a more efficient lever to get our hips working. Keeping the band pressure out, pulsing here. Let's see if I can get 15 seconds of a pulse. The deeper you go, harder it's gonna feel. Take whatever challenge feels right for you. And then I'm gonna try to hit 15 seconds or so of continuous squats. Just right down, nice and soft. Trying to absorb into both legs equally. Try not to move very much on my mat. I'm gassing out in my hips. Got quite a good quad burn going on. If you're feeling like your calves or your back are the thing working the hardest, that might not be great. Coming back into our side lying plank here, knees nice and bent in front of us. Push down through the ground, squeeze forward, peel that top leg out and in, finding that real nice sense of rotation and connection. I always tell people, kind of as if you were driving, put the brakes on as you come to that stop, that end of the motion, rather than kind of flinging yourself up into it to get a really nice muscle connection. I think I can handle 2 more. Mind you, a hip thrust, a couple 100 pounds, and can lift quite a lot of weight. That does not mean that unweighted exercises or banded exercises are easy. If you really focus on dialing in to the biggest quality that you can pull out of this movement, and I can always use the phrase, juice the orange. Find that depth, find that squeeze, find the most that's there for you in it. Try to get everything that you possibly could from each rep. I think I can get 2 and 1. We'll squeeze at the end for a good measure. And we're gonna come into our bridge walkouts. Again, just a nice squeeze or a roll to come up out of the bottom. Try not to push yourself too high. Come up onto the backs of your heels here. The size of your steps doesn't matter. The stability of the side that's not moving does. If you open your arms to the sides, you're gonna feel like you wiggle a little bit less because we've got a little bit more support. You could also put your hands, palms down next to you, or just elbows. All of that makes it a bit easier from a core perspective. The band's not really necessary for hamstring load here, but it can help you feel more stable coming from your pelvis. And another area to think about, I'm going to finish with a couple more of those single leg pull-ins just to spend down some of that extra energy. Whew. And that brings us into the end of our lower body set at approximately 22 minutes of overall work time. We're gonna move into a little cool down finisher. Our 2 exercises are gonna be a Superman swimmer and a plank walkout. If you have lower back pain or don't feel comfortable in this position where I'm at right now, you might wanna look at a modification or pick a different exercise. For this one, we're gonna have our chest lifted up off the mat, which is gonna give us a little lower back engagement. You can also squeeze, get this out of my way, squeeze and lift from your glutes as you reach up and around. I like to create a nice full movement at the bottom, palms coming together just over the top of the sacrum. Really let your shoulder blades go. Let yourself reach towards the walls behind you, reach towards the space overhead in front of you, and create a nice full movement, like we said earlier, as if the arm starts at the shoulder blade. Ooh. That's me finding my fatigue point, whether it's your glutes, your back, or your shoulders. If I hit that feeling first, doesn't really matter. Move through it until you feel like that's the end of your limit. We're now gonna move into a nice plank walkout. Sometimes people call these inchworm push-ups or inchworm walkouts. Tall plank here. We're gonna walk our hands back up to our feet. You can stand at the top. The big challenge here is not to allow your body to rock side to side as you walk your way out. Try to keep it as neutral, right down the middle of your mat as possible. Also not letting ourselves sink towards the mat, keeping a nice pressure through the shoulder to engage us out of it. That is gonna be my fatigue point there. We're gonna do one more round of both of those exercises. So start to drip a little sweat. Again, get those legs peeled together, lift that chest up, and then you're gonna reach towards the walls, towards overhead. You'll notice I'm not looking in front of me, I'm trying to keep my neck nice and neutral. Getting hard to talk, guys. Let's get 2 more, Nicole. We got 1 and reach. Find your breath, and 2. Cutting down your rest times in between will get you a little bit more of the cardio component to this workout. I like to start from standing because the end of the movement in this inchworm walkout is a lot tighter to stabilize than starting here and gradually moving into it. So I find it gives me a greater likelihood we're gonna get into that nice tall plank position well. Anytime we're doing a finisher, I always try to say, like, do this for the you that didn't do it yesterday, for the you that has been at some point injured and has really wanted to be able to work hard. Do it for you at 80 who reminisces on being strong and sweating and being able to get down into some of these exercises. Hopefully the 80-year-old you is still active and still working out. Do it for parents or future kids or whatever gets you inspired. Keeping your dog as happy as you can by taking it on lots of adventures. Whatever it is. Whew. As you're coming into the end of that 26.5 minutes of work here, we're gonna cool down to end right at the 30-minute mark with our first exercises that we did again. So coming into the kneeling position, we're gonna let those hips, ankles, and knees rock back out, forward and back. Hopefully it'll feel a little bit warmer, a little bit more limber, a little bit juicier. After finishing the workout is a great time, while warm, to get a little stretching in. The research on the appropriate timing for stretching is mixed, and I think it really depends on, switching sides here, what the purpose of your stretching is. If you're trying to loosen up to get a great workout in, a little bit of stretching goes a long way. If you're trying to push your range and really deepen into the length of a muscle, maybe waiting for that after a workout or separate from a workout, maybe at least half an hour before training, it's gonna be probably a little safer so your body knows what to do with that new range before you start loading it deeply. We've just deeply opened our hips up and then we add dozens of pounds or hundreds of pounds of force potentially into a deep squat. We run a little bit more of a risk of getting hurt there as we're not as comfortable controlling range we didn't used to have. So allow yourself time when it comes to stretching. Think about feeling those muscle fibers relax and release. Always point out that when stretching, the stretch you feel should match the muscle you're stretching. So if you notice that as you're stretching, for example, very common one, the hamstrings, your stretch is running all the way into your calf and your foot, it's not your hamstring anymore, and there might be something else to explore there a little further. Just gonna get another 5 or 6 over here. Really just kind of finding and feeling whatever was used. That might be tender, whatever was a little tighter at the beginning that I wasn't able to open into. We did both linear and diagonal. Now grabbing whatever strap or band we used at the beginning in any comfortable position. Add a little tension and trying to just from the shoulders, not squeezing your neck, not letting your ribs or spine pop. Get a couple rainbows in here. As we mentioned at the beginning, the tighter our hands are together, the more closed that shoulder range is. You'll notice that as I come overhead, I use a little bit of the forgiveness on that band to give myself a more open range. You might also notice that there's a little shrug in my movement as I let my shoulder blades move, which is super important for the health of the shoulder. And that's it right there. These workouts, yeah, right there, it's 30 minutes and 10 seconds. Quick workouts, big effect, keeping everything moving, everything healthy, lubricating joints, getting muscle work. You don't need a lot of equipment, even a set of bands, probably less than $5 on any sporting goods supply store. You can get them delivered, you can find them in person. Mats work, you don't need a mat, you can use grass or a patio or just the floor if you're comfortable. You could also put a towel out. Don't think that getting a workout requires expensive equipment, and have a good rest of your day.